welcome to Rave N Review Season 1 finale. I'm your host Kaya, and you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at kaya.r.pennington. My lovely co-host Bree, though not here, you can follow on Instagram and Twitter at BrinaVet26. And you can follow Rave N Review on Instagram, Twitter, and even TikTok at Rave_N_Review. Before we get into it, be sure to like, follow, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share. Guys, sharing helps us out so much. Engaging with our comment, leaving likes and follows, all of that helps us out so much. And not just here, but on our Apple Podcasts, on our Spotify, on our Anchor, on our own personal socials, on the Rave N Review socials. All of that helps us out so much. So please help us be our best selves by bringing us to a wider audience, by sharing with all of your friends and family. It helps us out so much, and we really do appreciate it. And with that, let's get into our first segment, Twitter Conversations, where we discuss trending threads on Twitter. Now, this one, much like last week, is kind of an in-between. I've seen it both on TikTok and on Twitter. And it's also kind of like a part two to my it's okay to be a Black American. That one was for like Black Americans. This one is kind of gonna be for Africans, and I hate to sit here and marginalize that even in wording, because just like how we are not a monolith, they're not a monolith. But I've seen a lot of videos where it's like songs like what is it? Don't call me some don't, I can't remember the name. I'm so sorry, I can't remember. But it's not that don't call me Stacy, don't call me it's not that song. But it's a song by a Black American, I believe. And in it, the caption, they have captions that read, don't call me African American, I'm Nigerian, I'm Jamaican, I'm Caribbean, I'm Haitian, or whatever, what have you. And they're doing the head and the hand movement, right? And then I've seen videos, it's just like, not the Black Americans upset because we don't want people to claim us as them. Or I've seen the caption it reads, when you're talking to your Black American friends, and then the audio is like, so where are you from? Heck, where is everybody from? Where are you really from? And so my thing is, are y'all okay? Are y'all okay? Because being African doesn't give you any more validation or authority like you're some true Black person just because you can possibly trace all of your roots back. Like, are y'all okay? And I blame bullying. I really do blame bullying. I think this all stems from the African booty scratchers and all those other stupid jokes. Now, I didn't go to school with any form of Africans up until college, and I had a bad experience with those that I did go. But I'm not gonna sit here and be like I hate all Africans, or I'm gonna just distance myself like that from all Africans just because of my bad experience with them. So why would y'all do that to us? Now, again, like I said, I didn't go to school with a lot of Africans, but there was this one African substitute that the students loved to Jones on, and he would laugh it off. I don't know if he didn't fully get what they were doing, but he would laugh it off. But I think that's the problem. But I've seen that on both sides, like the harassment that they get, but I've also seen those jokes that are like, you turn off the lights in the classroom and then all of a sudden you hear that, uh-oh, where did so-and-so go? Can't find them. Yeah, that stuff is harmful, but you're an adult now. And that's not to say that you get over your trauma, but you should be able to handle it better. Be like, hey, that really traumatized me and I need to deal with that trauma. So let me go ahead and educate folk about why. And I know Google is free. I stand by that. But sometimes it is okay to sit here and talk about your experience and be like, this is why y'all shouldn't do that kind of mess. Because let me tell y'all what y'all sound like with this, don't call me African American. This is what y'all sound like. Oh, masses, please don't confuse me for him. I'm not that lazy watermelon loving fried chicken eating. I'm a good one. I's a good one, so I's a good one. That's what you sound like. That is what you sound like. And you hear how ignorant that stuff sounds? That's what you sound like. It doesn't give you any more validation because you can possibly trace back all of your roots. And I'm gonna double down. Can you? Can you tell me what your ancestors, what tribe your ancestors from, where they were, what they were doing? And I don't know, the 1600s, the year 1515. Can you tell me that off the top of your head? Can you? You probably can, not off the top of your head. I'm fine. Just because I can't trace all of my roots back does not mean I don't have a connection to something. Does not mean that I am just this lost wandering. I'm fine being a Black American. I am freaking K. I promise. And the conversation, it will be a different conversation if you were genuinely being like, hey, I've been around a lot of Black Americans and you guys have your own culture and practices. Because yes, we do have our own culture and practices. We are the blueprint for a lot of stuff. It would be different if you had been like, hey, I don't want to get too mixed up in y'all because I do have my own stuff that I would like to preserve. That would be different. It would even be different if you were sitting here talking about how racism, like how it affects me as a light-skinned Black woman compared to how it affects you as a darker-skinned Black person. That would be the conversation. But y'all act like the racism is gonna hit y'all so differently, and so that would be a talking point if we were talking about how the racism hits you differently. But y'all act like it's just gonna hit y'all so differently compared to how it hit us as Black people in general, Black Americans in general. Y'all act like these dudes gonna be like, oh, you Nigerian? You Haitian? See, I was gonna hit you with some hardcore racism, but now that I know that I'ma let you pass. Okay, I see. It's not gonna be like that. It's not gonna be like that. Like, the racism's gonna hit you the same. And it would be a different thing if we were talking about how the racism hits you compared to me being a lighter skinned Black person as how it hits you as a darker skinned Black person. That would be different. But that's not the conversation. Nor is the conversation you genuinely saying, I don't want my own practices and heritage to be lost. That's not the conversation either. And it's like, you still Black, right? Like when you go to do a job application or any kind of application that asks you your race, they're not asking you where you from, what nationality, what ethnicity. They're not asking all that. You check in Black. At the end of the day, you check in Black. And I promise you that racism is going to hit you the same. But let me say this. If it bothers you so much that somebody may confuse you with a Black American, which why wouldn't they when you're using AAVE, when you're using African American vernacular English, by the way, or Ebonics, something that Black people created, when you're using the hand movements and the head movements and all, why wouldn't they? But if it bothers you so much, don't do it. And you hear how to me, that sounds so out of pocket to tell a Black person not to do something that other Black people do and enjoy, and not like some deeply religious or something that's deeply appropriating culture. Just simply talking with your hands like that or whatever, or doing AAVE or using that kind of stuff, that's out of pocket. Especially if you're I don't know, you're Nigerian, but you grew up around a lot of Black Americans. And so it just kind of naturally came to you to do that kind of stuff. I wouldn't have a problem with it. Not compared to like if it was a non-Black person, because I know they like to use that argument too. Well, I grew up around such and such, a lot of such. It's different. It's different. But me as a Black person telling another Black person, don't do that, it's out of pocket and it's weird. But no, don't do that. If it bothers you so much, don't use AAVE. Don't do the head movements and the hand movements and the makeup trends and the clothes and the food and the music and all of that. Don't do it. Don't do it. And even saying that, I don't know if you can fully say don't do it, because some of our things, some of our practices and our cultural things collide because we have some shared experiences being Black people. So, but if it bothers you that much, don't do it. Don't do any of that. You have your own. Use your own. Don't do any of this. Because what y'all sound like, imagine me saying here, like, don't call me African, okay? I'm a Black American. That sounds so ignorant. And it sounds like, what's wrong with being an African? That's what it sounds like, don't it? What's wrong with being a Black American? Look, this ain't doing nothing but dividing us. And it's like, at the end of the day, we all Black, and racism is going to hit us majority the same. Now, it would be different if you're talking about colorism or something like that. But outside of that, majority is going to hit us the same. They're not going to sit here and be like, oh, you Haitian, let me not treat you like I would. You just... See how horrible that and stupid that mess sounds? Like, let's be for real here, guys. Let's be for real here. And with that, let's get into our next segment, our movie review segment. And today, that movie is the 2001 film Legally Blonde. This stars Reese Witherspoon as Elle Woods, a blonde-haired, I don't know if she's blue-eyed, but a blonde-haired, rich white girl in a sorority. And the film starts off with her entire sorority helping Elle get ready for a date that she's about to go on with her boyfriend Warner. Now, they've been dating for a while, they've been talking for a while, so she thinks it's really getting serious. She thinks he might be proposing tonight, so she wants everything to go right. So the sorority helps her get ready. Her two best friends help her get ready. They take her dress shopping, and it's here that we see Elle is not just some dumb blonde bimbo. So the sales associate basically says that she's like nothing better than a dumb blonde with daddy's money. And so she's like, hey, you should wear this dress. We just got it in, even though it's a last season dress. And so Elle, she sees the dress and she's like, something ain't right. And so she plays along. She's like, oh, is it this kind of fabric? And the sales associate is like, with this kind of understitching, and this kind of overstitching, because the sales associate don't know nothing about what she's talking about, but she go along with it. And then Elle's like, girl, you lying. You can't stitch this kind of fabric over that kind of fabric because it would ruin that fabric. Be for real. And I saw this in last year's magazine, so if you're trying to sell it to me for full price, keep it pushing. So we see that she is not just some dumb bimbo. She has a brain, at least for fashion, but she's smart. So she gets the dress, she gets her makeup done, her hair done, she's all good. Warren pulls up outside their sorority house. He takes her to a fancy restaurant, and he's like, Elle, Pooh Bear, you know, if I'm gonna be a senator by the time I'm 30, I gotta stop dicking around. We've had a lot of fun, but it's time for me to settle down. And she's like, oh, I couldn't agree more. And he's like, that's why I think we should break up. And she's like, at first she says yes because she thought he was gonna propose, and then she's like, wait, what? You're breaking up with me because you don't think I look good enough to be on the arm of a senator? Is my hair too blonde or my boobs too big? What is your problem? And he's like, no, everything's fine. It's just like, you're not serious. And so he drops her off at a sorority, then speeds off. And this leads to that trope of her sitting in her room for a little while, watching chick flicks. And it's like, she's upset. And her friends come in and they finally get her to come out of her room. And they take her for mani-pedis. And she's reading through a magazine and she sees Warner's older brother with his fiance, who is a Yale law student. And she's like, law. Warner is going to Harvard. He wants somebody serious. So I need to go to Harvard and be a law student. And so her friends are very supportive, but they're also like, that's a lot of work, Elle. You can do it, but that's a lot of work. Now her parents on the other end are like, law school is for like boring, ugly, unserious people. You're none of those things, which only makes Elle more determined, because as it should really though, because like, how you loving my parents and you just anyway. So she studies for the LSAT. She gets a 179, so she gets into Harvard. She takes her dog Brewster. She takes her dog with her, and she's a girly girl, by the way. She likes fashion, she likes makeup, she likes pink. A girly girl, you know, stereotypical, air quotes. Anyway, so she gets there and people are already looking at her and is like, this ain't your setting. So she has to prove them all wrong. And so her first day of classes, she dresses up in what she thinks is like a very cute lawyer outfit. And she sees Warren and she's like, Warren, oh my God. And he's like, are you here to see me? She's like, no, I go here. And he's like, go where? She's like, here, Harvard. You got into Harvard? What, like it's hard? Which, good for her. Love that for her. And so she goes to her first class, and the professor notices that she doesn't have anything, and she's like, you're underprepared. Why should I let you stay in this class? Did you do the reading? And I was like, oh no, I didn't do the reading. And so the professor turns to Vivian, and she's like, Vivian, should I let Elle stay in this class? And Vivian's like, no, it's completely unacceptable. Now, Vivian is Warren's fiance, and they've been dating for a while, so Elle was probably the side chick. And Warren has been telling Vivian about Elle, and so she already knows who she is, and she's basically like, no, you need to kick her out. So Elle gets kicked out, and she goes sit on a bench outside in like one of the courtyards, and here we meet Emmett. Emmett is one of Elle's professor's associates. One of her professor's associates. And so he's like, are you okay? She's like, do professors just kick you out if you're unprepared? And he's like, oh, you had so-and-so professor, didn't you? And she was like, yeah, did she do that to you too? And he was like, nah, she did make me cry though when I got back to my room. And then he kind of gives her advice about what teachers to stay away from, what teachers to, and stuff like that. And then he leaves, and then Warren comes to see her, and he's like, hey, how was your first day of classes? And she's like, it was all right, except for this goody-goody two-shoes who tried to show me up in front of the professor. And then said goody-goody two-shoes, Vivian, comes in, and she's like, look at you. And Elle's like, do you know her? I'm his fiance, honey. So Elle is distraught. She only got in to try to get Warner back. So she's about to leave, but she ends up going to get mani-pedi, where we see Paulette, who is the nail tech. She's like, oh, that sucks for you. I'm so sorry. And Elle is like, I just don't know what to do. I got into the school for him. And Paulette is like, still the dude back? What you mean? Still him back. Go get your man. And so this sets Elle onto a path of trying to get Warren back. Warren, by the way, is played by the actor who plays Alaric in The Vampire Diaries. And so when I was younger, when I was younger, I used to somewhat see what Elle saw in Warren, at least physically. And now that I'm older, and it's just like, yeah. And now that I know that actor is like a complete weirdo, it's like, yeah. So he's not worth it. But anyway, she's trying to get his attention. She's baking and trying to get into his study group. But Vivian is also in his study group, and she's like, no, we ain't got no room. Keep pushing. And so the last straw for Elle is like when Vivian invites her to a costume party, but it's not really a costume party. So Elle shows up in like a bunny suit, and Vivian is like, oh, like your costume. And Elle hits back, and she's like, yeah, I like yours too, but when I dress up like a bitch, I try not to look so constipated. And then she goes to find Warren, and Warren basically tells her the same thing that her parents did. He's like, this isn't you, this isn't for you, you're not serious, you're never gonna be a lawyer. So this kind of sets her on the path that she's like, well, forget you, I'm gonna show you up. So she goes out to buy a laptop, she starts studying. She actually even gets an internship with the professor to work an actual law case, the actual case that they'll be defending. And this is where we see Emmett again, who is the associate of the professor, and they're defending Brooke. What's her last name? I forget her last name, but they're defending Brooke, who is this like exercise person. She had a very much older husband, and he was rich, and he ended up dead. And so it's like, is she a gold digger? But the professor is like, no, she has her own money. She is an exercise person. And so they try to get her alibi. She won't give it up. Elle ends up going to talk to her. And so she's like, I was getting liposuction, okay? But like, I can't let people know that I'm a fraud. I would rather go to jail than to lose everything. And so they have to figure out another way to defend her. Along the way, Emmett and Elle get closer. Vivian and Elle get closer. They strike up a friendship. And Vivian decides she's a little tired of Warren's, him in general, and also tired of being the secretary in this group, because he's always asking her to go get some coffee or something, and it's just like, I thought I was here to defend somebody as a legal part of a legal team. So they strike up a friendship. They try to figure out how to save Brooke and get her off this murder charge. So we see Elle is thriving here, and so much so that the professor, he kind of hits on her. He starts hitting on her, and Vivian sees this, but like, if she had stayed a second later, she would have saw Elle turn down her advances, but she didn't. She left. And so Elle is like, you know what, no more boring black suits. I'm through. He only hired me because he liked the way I look. I'm through. And Emmett is like, don't let that stop you. You are a good lawyer. Come on, please don't go. Stay. For me. Stay. And so she's like, nope. Call me if you ever in LA, but I'm going home. And so next day, Vivian is like, oh, well, maybe you should. She makes some snide remark at Elle's expense, and Emmett is like, shut up, okay? You don't know anything about what you're talking about. He hit on her, and then she left. And Vivian is like, oh, I feel terrible, as she should, because she confronted Elle, and she was like, maybe if you sleep with the whole jury, then we'll win the case. And Elle was like, girl. So, Brooke finds this out, that the professor hit on Elle, and she fires him. She hires Elle, and Elle wins the case after the person that they have on the stand, which is the victim's daughter, she's being questioned. And so she says that she went to get a perm, and then she got in the shower, and Elle was like, no, you can't take a shower right after you get a perm. This thus leads the daughter to confess to the murder, which on one hand, it's like, Brooke was the daughter's age, and so it's just like, yo, daddy dating somebody your age, it's a little weird. Murder weird? I don't know, but it's a little weird. She might be a little valid in her anger. Anyway, Elle wins the case. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, you did it. And Warren is like, hey, you and me, we could do some stuff. And Elle's like, oh my God, Warren, I've always wanted to hear you say that. But if I'm going to be a successful lawyer by the time I'm 30, I need a boyfriend who's not a complete bonehead. And then she walks out, and we get an epilogue, and she's valedictorian. She and Vivian are best friends. Vivian broke up with Emmett. Emmett has no scholarships, no job, none of that. And Elle and Emmett are engaged. And that's the movie. I would give it a 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. It's very much a 2001 film. So warning, I guess, because it's very much that like, there's a scene where they're questioning Brooke's pool boy, and after Court has been let out, he's at the water fountain, he's drinking. Elle is behind him, she wants a drink, and so she starts tapping her foot, telling him to come on. And so he turns around and he's like, don't stomp your last season Prada shoes at me, honey. And he walks off, and Elle is like, these aren't last season. You're gay. And so it's very much trigger warning, I guess. It's a 2001 film. It is a 2001 film, but I would give it a 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. It's a little campy. There are moments. Look, the bend and snap, y'all. I've never fully been comfortable with the bend and snap. Bend and snap. Like, it's a little cringe, but 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. And with that, before we get into our next segment, let's take a minute here to take a break to send it over to our promoters so they can let you know where to find us. Like what you're hearing?
Follow us for more.
We're on Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, and YouTube.
And don't forget to share, like, and comment.
Woo!
Woo! You know you love us.
Thanks, promoters. Now let's get into our next segment, our TV review segment, which is a very one of my favorites, and it almost qualifies for a childhood review segment, but we'll keep it as a TV review segment. Today, that show is Ugly Betty. This is an ABC show it ran from 2006 to 2010, so that's 4 seasons, and it follows Betty Suarez, a Mexican woman, trying to start up a journalism career. So one of the things that drew me to this show is that her family is Mexican. They're Hispanic family, they're Mexican. So it's her father, her sister, and her nephew, and they all stay in the same house. And we see that Betty, she has responsibility. She's trying to figure out how she's going to get her dad his heart medication, which his insurance just decided that they were going to stop paying. There's rent due, there's like bills and all of that stuff, and so she and her sister kind of help out with that, but a lot falls to Betty. So the thing about Betty, she's played by America Ferrera. She's not supposed to be like standardly pretty, like so she has frumpy hair and her eyebrows aren't done, and she has a little weight, and she has adult braces, and because of that she's not like pretty. But it's like, y'all could never convince me that she was the ugly duckling. Like, absolutely not. Was her fashion sense a little some things I wouldn't wear? Sure, but y'all cannot convince me she was the ugly duckling. And she had a pool. She had a lot of dudes in her roster, long-term relationship dudes. Like, you cannot tell me she was the ugly duckling. Anyway, so she's at Mead Publications trying to get a job, and the interviewer sees her. He calls out her name, and then he sees her, and he's like, oh yeah, actually all of a sudden every role that we have here is booked. Now Betty is a go-getter, and so she's like, oh well, since you have me here, let me show you my resume, let me do this, let me do that, because and so the interviewer is kind of like trying to escort her out, but then the CEO of Mead Publications is like, hey, wait, let me take a look at you. You say you what? You say, okay, I'm gonna hire you. And you're like, oh, so you start thinking, oh, somebody doesn't care about looks. He's hiring her because she's qualified. But no. He hired her because he just made his son, Daniel, publisher. He made him a boss of Mode magazine, which is a fashion magazine in the Mead Publications. So Daniel's problem is that he constantly sleeps with his assistants and secretaries. And so Daniel's dad hired Betty, or he made Daniel hire Betty, in the hopes that Daniel wouldn't sleep with Betty. And so Daniel was like, I don't want to hire her. And his dad was like, well, you can hire her, or you can get fired and not get any inheritance. Yeah, live like the poor people do. And so Daniel hires her, and Daniel's photographer friend is like, that's who you hired? For real? Let's be for real here, Danny. That's not your type. And Daniel is like, I can't fire her. And the photographer friend is like, well, you can make her quit. And so on Betty's side, we see that she already has aspirations. She's like, hey, I have this idea for this thing, for your proposal for a magazine, for a photo shoot. You could do like a family type thing. And she has it all like PowerPointed and stuff, and Daniel's not trying to hear her. He just wants her gone. So one of the things that starts off his campaign to get her to quit is he calls her up over the line from boss to secretary or whatever, and he's like, hey Betty, there's a problem with my food. And she's like, okay, what? He's like, I like coleslaw, but I hate lettuce. And Betty is like, but coleslaw is, yeah, I know, it's just, I like the sweet tanginess of it, but I hate the lettuce. Can you do something about that? And other stuff like that. He has her sitting outside at night in front of his townhouse to do something. This causes her to miss her dad's birthday party. And we actually see here Daniel, as he looks out of the window and sees her like sad, he's like, oh, maybe she do got feelings that I should respect. Yeah, should be all right. And so he continues on with this kind of behavior. And he ends up tricking her into a photo shoot. And so they really try to play her like she just is this ugly duckling, but it's like, in my opinion, she ate that outfit. I'm sorry, like she kind of ate, she kind of served. But anyway, it's a crop top outfit with the little hole, the V hole, and some shorts and some stockings, some fishnet stockings. And so we see Betty is uncomfortable in it, but like she volunteered to do it because she's trying to help Daniel out. And so the photographer friend is like, be sexy, be sexy. And so she's trying to do what the other models are doing, but they're tall and slim and she's short and weighted. And so she's in the middle in between them two. And so they start laughing at her. Everybody started laughing at her, and she's like trying to push through it, but she can't, and she runs out. And Daniel was like, you know what, this is not okay. So he runs after her, but Betty's like, no, you win. I quit. You win. And so she goes home, but she can't really afford to quit because she has bills to pay. And so Daniel ends up coming to her house, and he's like, what I did was wrong. I'm so sorry. But she's like, no, I don't want to hear it, because you think you can run these games and then think you can say sorry like you're not playing with people's livelihoods. You have never had to sit here and worry about how you're going to get your dad's medication or how you're going to pay this bill or that bill. You've never had to do that. And yet you think it's okay to sit here and play games with people who do. And Daniel was like, well, you know what? You're right. I don't know your problems, but I have my own problems and they're mine. And it's just like, yeah, okay, you're a person with feelings. You're entitled to feel. Even if you do have money, you're entitled to feel. But also, it's like, you decided to throw a temper tantrum because your dad made you hire me just in the hopes that you would not sleep with me so that you could do your job. And you got so upset that you thought you was going to run me up out of here. We're not the same. We're not on the same level. But Betty still goes back anyway, and Daniel ends up doing the idea that she had about the family shoot. And Daniel's dad is so impressed with it. And Wilhelmina, who's like the creative designer, she's impressed, but she's like, Now Wilhelmina has been there for a long time, and she thought she was gonna be up for like big boss, but then it went to Daniel, and so she's like, that ain't right. Nepotism, baby. I'm gonna scheme to get this job position. So, but Betty helps out Daniel. Daniel's dad is really impressed with it, and Daniel starts to give Betty the credit, but then Betty's like, no, it was his idea and it was the best one he's ever had. And it's just like, Betty. When we get to these type of worlds and these type of positions and this lifestyle, you taking credit where credit is due. Do you hear me? You take that credit. Take it. And so that's episode 1. Now, I do like this show, and I like that it has a Hispanic family, a Mexican family at the center of it. But there are times where Betty just goes above and beyond of what an assistant should do. She's very much involved in Daniel's personal life and his mom's personal life. All of that, his brother and sister, because she was the villain of season 1. And the person that Wilhelmina was working with to scheme to get the job. And so like Betty is involved in all of that, and it's just like sometimes it's above and beyond, and it's just like it's very much leaning into that POC, just there to help the white character, which I don't like. But I like Betty, I really do. Daniel, and it's so funny that they try to play Betty like she the ugly duckling when the haircut they had Daniel working with at first is just like not very appealing. I don't see it. Anyway, he's a playboy. His heart ends up growing 3 sizes, and he actually does start to care about the job that he's doing, and Betty too. So he does lean on Betty a lot. It's almost like a codependency. Like he cannot function without Betty, which I'll try to remember to come back to because when I get to the season finale, because he says as much in the series finale. Wilhelmina, played by Vanessa Williams. I have a love-hate relationship with Wilhelmina because on one hand, it's like, now Wilhelmina is a very over-the-top villain, and that's kind of what the show calls for. And she uses her assistant Mark, who is a frenemy to Betty, to scheme and stuff. And it's just like, on one hand, Wilhelmina, come on, you're doing too much. You're doing too much. This is gonna be the death of you. But on the other hand, it's like, you know what? You're right. You're right. That's a valid point. Keep scheming to get this position because that's a valid point. Amanda and Mark are the comic duo, and they start off as like mean to Betty, but because Betty is so nice and she sees the good in everybody, it's like they end up being frenemies with her. Like, they have a very complex, weird friendship because she's there to lean, like a shoulder for them to lean on and to help them out as well, including Wilhelmina, which is why I didn't like Wilhelmina a lot, because it's like, in scheming to sabotage Daniel, you're also trying to get me out of a job. And being somebody who Wilhelmina came from nothing and grew into something, I'm not liking the fact that you're trying to sabotage another POC. Like, I'm not liking that. Like, you're trying to get me fired. Like, I'm just, because that's something in trying to keep Daniel in his job and trying to keep Daniel's, in a job. Betty's really trying to keep herself in a job because she works for Daniel. Daniel gone, she go. So anyway, Mark and Amanda, it's a weirdish type thing, but she's there for them to, like, she helps them out. Now Mark is gay, and so Betty ended up helping Mark out with that, and they were fake dating because his mom, he's openly gay except to his mom. And so when his mom got there, she basically insulted Betty and her family, even though Betty was doing Mark a favor. And Mark was like, you know what? Stop this. These people have been nothing but kind to you, and you will not talk to them like this. And that kind of messes up his relationship with his mom. But Betty is like, hey, I'm here for you if you want to talk or anything. So that kind of stuff. And she does that with Amanda too. And Mark and Betty particularly become, I would say they're a bit closer than Amanda and Betty, because Mark and Betty end up having like the same goals as far as like getting out of Mode magazine and just like into different they both get like a writing internship at a very prestigious writing thing, and so they kind of become frenemies, and they kind of become like rivals, but also friends that end up working, like they work on a lot of projects together. So Justin, who is Betty's nephew, he is also gay, but like you almost you know it right off the bat, but you don't want to assume it, because it's like, just because he likes fashion and theater and hair and all of that does not make him gay. This is not Legally Blonde. But it's him working up to like figuring out, hey, I am gay. Hey, how do I tell my family that? How do I come out to that? Which he leans on Mark for. And so it deals with that too, which at the time I'm sure it was a little, but they did it, and it's forever one of my favorite shows. So by the time the show ends, Betty she has her own agency, like as a writer for this fashion magazine. She's done some side work. She gets offered a job in London to do, so I don't know if it's a fashion magazine, or I think it's a fashion magazine. And so her braces come off, she gets a better style, her hair is better, she loses her bangs, she gets some better glasses. It's like they still do the ugly duckling transformation, but like she wasn't that ugly to begin with. She was not ugly. She was no ugly duckling. Anyway, so when she finally tells Daniel that she's leaving, Daniel's like, Betty, I can't live without you. And they're kind of hinting, because they did a little thing in season 1 where you could kind of see maybe if they were gonna do a slow burn with Daniel and Betty, and then they dropped it. And then season 4 they picked it back up and started like really honing in on it. And so that statement is both a Betty, I'm in love with you, I I can't live without you, and also a very much codependency. I can't function without you because you've been such a big part in helping me get to where I am in this department. So even Daniel's mom is like, I think he's feeling you, Betty. And Betty's like, what? Be for real. But they kind of play that up. And it's like, I can see it. I can see it. If you were gonna play it up, I wish you kind of would have done. I don't know if they knew they were only getting 4 seasons. I think it might have got canceled. But it's like, if you were gonna play that up, I kind of wish you would have done it a little sooner in a little better way. But they kind of play that up, and then Betty leaves for London. She's like, I'm taking the job. I'm sorry, my guy. You can bump my raise, you can bump my pay, and give me a full-time editor position, but I'm leaving. This leads Daniel to quitting Mode magazine and finally giving Wilhelmina the position. And he leaves and goes to London after Betty. And they meet, and Betty's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, just trying something new. And that's kind of where it ends. And that's Ugly Betty. It's on Hulu, and I think it might be free on ABC. I would give it a 9 out of 10. I would. It's one of my favorites, and I would highly recommend it. And with that, let's get into our last segment of Rave N Review Season 1. It's time for What's in the Headlines, where we rave and review celebrity news and gossip. And today we're talking about the fallout of Twitter employees. We're talking about a possible rumored Princess Diaries 3, and we're also talking about Kelly Rowland and Chris Brown. Let's start with Kelly Rowland and Chris Brown. Now, I don't know what the thing is this time, but Chris Brown was set to perform at the AMAs, which aired over the weekend, but they dropped him, and yet he still won an award, which Kelly Rowland presented, and I don't think the crowd really liked this. And so this led her to being like, hey, stop it. And she's like, hey, I'm gonna bring this to you myself, Chris. And then later kind of doubled down on her defense of him and was basically like, he deserves forgiveness and grace. Look, we started What's in the Headlines in episode 1 with Chris Brown, so I think it's fitting that we ended here. But this isn't even really about him in general. Forgiveness for what? I think a lot of people think it was just Rihanna. And it's like, it's not. Like, this was not some one-off abuse situation that happened when he was younger. He allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly, he allegedly has a pattern. A lot of women have come out, black women have come out and been like, hey, I was abused in some way by this man. Allegedly, he may have a pattern. And it's like, I can't remember fully the reports, so please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but like, wasn't it that he didn't just hit Rihanna, but he like bashed her head into a window and was like, I'm gonna freaking kill you? Like, right? Ain't that what the reports say? I don't understand. It is very much true that we as black women are the most unprotected, neglected women, because like, why are y'all doubling down, and not just her, but black people, black women? Why are y'all doubling down on somebody who has allegedly has a pattern of doing this? And the same with Tory Lanez, the same with anybody, any person who abuses black women. And then want to use this argument, well, white people get off on this kind of stuff all the time. Yeah, but don't we always have something to say about it? Don't we try to get them held accountable? Like, I don't know what defense you think that is, but it's not a good one. It's not a good one. And again, let's stop acting like we are on the same level as them. We're not. It's unfair we're held to a higher standard, but we are. And we actually need to hold each other to a higher standard, because it's like, this is not okay. And what I'm about to say, in no way In no way am I calling Kelly Rowling a pick me, but there are a lot of pick me's defending him, and it's just like, you are never gonna get picked. What does this do to defend this person? You are never gonna get picked. But I swear to y'all, oh my god, pick me's irk me so bad. Look, if we make it to a season 2, episode 1, either unpopular opinions or trending conversation on Twitter is gonna be about pick me's, because it's never gonna be you. What does this do for you? To sit here and invalidate a black women talking about abuse. Be for real. Be so for real. Like, it just makes me iffy. I don't go for that separate the art from the artist, especially when the artist is a serial abuser, allegedly. You know? Like, be for real. But let's move into our next topic, which is a rumored Princess Diaries 3. Now look, we've done the Princess Diaries here on the show, and I even went as far as to watch the second one. They're not my favorite films. And I've said it once, I've said it twice, I will continue to say it. I have never really been a fan for sequels that come out years after the originals. It's like, let it die. And I don't even remember if it really needs a sequel. Like the second one, I don't know if that needs to be a trilogy. Like, I don't know. We're just gonna have to see if, because this is just rumor, I think. But if it happens, we're just gonna have to see how that goes. Because it's like, I've never been one for like sequels long. They don't hit the same, and it's just like, I don't know if it needs one. And then again, for me, it wasn't one of my favorites, so I don't know if I care one way or another. But it's rumored, so we'll see. And with that, let's get into our last topic. Today we're talking about Twitter. Oh, okay, so Elon Musk gave Twitter employees a ultimatum. And basically, I'm paraphrasing, but basically he was like, you guys are either going to work long, hard hours and be prepared to sacrifice your mental health and work all these hours, or you can take a 3-month severance pay. And the employees literally gave this dude the salute emoji. They said, the only thing you run around here is your mouth. Say less. If calling your bluff was a person, a people, a movement, it would be them. Because they started doing videos of them turning in their Twitter laptops. Somebody hacked into some little billboard somewhere and started tweeting. They were like, hey, Elon Musk is a narcissistic man, baby. Like, the only thing you're running around here, son, is your mouth, is what they said. And so on the one hand, it's like, ooh, the privilege y'all must have to just up and quit your job. But on the other hand, it's like, I don't know, maybe you should quit, because long hours for what? Boy, the only thing you're running around here is your mouth. And it's really funny, and it's just like, whew, okay. I don't know, will Twitter be around by the time we possibly get around to a Rave N Review Season 2? I don't know, we just gonna have to see, because the way these people quit, and they said we are not, and that's not even like Twitter was like some great thing to start off with. There are problems on Twitter, but oof, these people said we not working for you. We gonna see what happens, y'all. We gonna see what happens. We gonna be there together. And with that is what's in the headlines, and that's Rave N Review Season 1. Thank you guys so much for all the views, shares, likes, comments, all of that. We would really love some more, so please continue to share, continue to like, to follow, subscribe, all of that. Do all of that good stuff, because it helps us out so much, and the level of engagement that we get really, it really kind of helps to see if we're really going to do a season 2. And I really hope that we do, because this has been such a fun ride. We have made it through all the schedule mishaps, the hiatus, all of that. And I'm so proud of us. Bree, cheers to us. I'm so proud of us. So thank thank you to everybody who shared, who viewed, the likes. Please continue to view, to share, to like, leave comments, follow, subscribe, all of that on here, on our Apple Podcast, Spotify, Anchor, on our personal socials, on the Rave N Review social. It helps us out so much, and we really, from the bottom of our hearts, do appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See ya.